but again, it's like if Elvis is an independent soul, if he's a first-handed person, if he's an artist, then what do you want him to do differently? I guess is what I would ask people who take issue with this. What would you wish him to do if he's inspired to follow a certain course as an artist? If he likes this type of performance and wishes to do it himself, if he's inspired, then are you saying he should not do that? So to me, again, speaking on my own behalf, if an artist wants to do something, if an artist is inspired to produce a certain type of art, telling that artist not to do that is telling the artist not to live. If the whole world needs to burn, if the whole world needs to end for me to do art my way, then that's the world's problem. So I know maybe what I'm saying right now does not strike some of you as the most logical, sound argument, but I mean, write it down and revisit it. Think about it. I really do think there is just something horribly monstrous about telling artists who are sincere in their production, like they strongly are committed to their art form, telling them, no, you shouldn't do it because X, because it's making the world a worse place in some way, or it's in some way, this is not your art to do. That to me is wrong.
It's really the understanding that philosophy needs to be lived, not just understood conceptually. And what we're trying to do is to offer a fully integrated educational experience, and that's why we're thinking about the networks around ARU as the intellectual network of the people who are helping us with the education and the training and the intellectuals who help us with the faculty and the intellectual development, a network of mentors, as you mentioned, Don, with specific expertise, and a network of businesses where we can place and have our graduates and our students intern and do some apprenticeships with people they want to learn from. This is a fully integrated, I think, view of how you allow someone to really forge their own path and learn as fast as possible about what they respond to, what they find interesting, and the virtues of how to apply. Because life is not easy, it's you can read about something in a book, but when you try to apply it for yourself, it gets really complicated. So dealing with that very early on in an environment where you can still, talk to you as a coach and ask your teacher about a specific topic. This is the educational environment we want to create, where people are set up for success.
Then these people, completely broken, are brought to the show trials, to public trials. These were trials that were taking place literally in theaters, cinemas, because there were audiences outside. They were screaming, protesters wanting their heads. And these people were completely broken from the torture and for threats of their family. So the idea was, we're going to give you a script, you're going to play by this script, and maybe we're going to let you leave. Most of the times they wouldn't let them leave, or we're going to let your family leave. And we see the weird spectacle, people in these show trials accusing themselves, saying, look, I was a pig, I was an imperialist jackal. There is no way for me to atone for the crimes I've done. Or we see the weird spectacle of the public prosecutor speaking like a hooligan and like a thug and using curse words against the defendants, and the defendants also applauding the guy who was telling what a pieces of horrible people they were. So in this time we have this absolute period of madness. In some way, there was no country where it was more dangerous to be a communist than Soviet Union.
Larry Pigov was asked, do religionists have a right to influence the government? He answers, well, I want to know, influence how and by what means? If we're talking about whether they have the right intellectually to propagandize, to persuade, to proselytize for their views, to try and get groups who will agree with them, well then yes. In other words, freedom of speech is an absolute.
Yeah.
And then he goes on, well, what do you mean by influence? Do you mean religion has a right to get special favors or special legislation, special recognition from the government for their religion? Then, of course, no. They don't have the right to influence the government in that regard. But this is not anything distinctive to religion, though. It applies to all groups whether ideological or otherwise, economic, ethnic, you name it. Nobody has the right in a proper society to try to influence the government to give you favors. Now that's
Well, I would take his position and endorse it fully and go a step further than that.
okay.
A position that I've made, and this goes to the special favors part of what Dr. Peikoff was saying, a point that I made in a recent podcast that we did on abortion, for example. I do not believe that the First Amendment to the United States Constitution permits legislation which requires a sectarian religious justification. If, for example, say there's a Christian sect known as the Seventh-day Adventists, they celebrate Sabbath like Jews do on the seventh day, like God commanded in Genesis, on Saturday, whereas most Christians on Sunday. So if someone were to say, well, no, we have to do it on Saturday because it was in Genesis, say that you could only have a sectarian justification for that. And on that basis alone, it violates the Establishment of Religion Clause. Our founders wanted a purely secular government. They wanted everyone to have the free exercise of their religious beliefs, philosophical beliefs. You can act on your own judgment as you see fit until and unless you violate someone else's rights. That's how they saw it. They also had another aspect. The government cannot endorse any particular sectarian religion. No establishment of religion.